I was 21 years old at the time, and it all happened very, very quickly, to be honest. So I'll start. Okay, I've been playing cricket the day before. Okay, and the reason I mentioned that is because obviously I dived for the ball and I landed on my side, and in the evening my hip had started to twinge a little bit. But I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought basically, from landing, catching the ball. Anyway, I woke up in the morning. It must have been about 4:30, something like that, in absolute screaming agony in my hip. Okay. Um, and I was actually at home at the time. And so it was weird. I didn't actually feel sick at that precise. It was just pain. Okay, so I thought, God, I've trapped a nerve, but the pain was nothing like I'd ever experienced before. I could not walk. I had to literally drag myself to get to the bathroom. Anyway, I was like, this is not right. And my mother also said, this is not right either. So she actually called the doctor, and the doctor came out because it was really good because she'd actually had a patient. Was it 3 weeks or 3 months? I don't remember. It was a long time ago now, but either previously, who had septicemia and had started off with pretty much exactly the same symptoms. And so she came over to the house immediately. And she took one look at me and she called an ambulance. During the ambulance ride to the hospital, um, that's when I started to feel really ill, actually. My pulse rate was a sustained 180 beats per minute. Okay. Um, and by the time I got to the hospital, I was crashing basically. Um, and I actually had a near-death experience, not in the sense of any sort of light at the end of the tunnel or anything like that, but as I was lying there, I could feel myself going, and literally in my mind, I was like, I'm dying. It was just that, yeah, and it was such a calm, peaceful feeling. But then, as I'm sliding, but I guess by that time the intravenous antibiotics were starting to kick in. It was flucloxacillin. That's a word I will never forget. um, so yeah, so basically stopped feeling myself going and I started to come back, but it really was that close. Um, and Yeah, I just remember lying there with the nurse stroking my head because they really thought they were going to lose me. Um, and they did say actually that they were quite surprised that I'd made it. And to be honest, I think if it hadn't been for the speedy reaction of the home GP, I wouldn't have made it because literally I think of another half an hour and that would have been it. It would have been game over. I was in hospital for 2 weeks on intravenous antibiotics. And so, the big intravenous needles and they'd go in your arm. And so they'd put one in and then obviously that would start to close up and then they'd have to make another hole and stick another needle in. My forearm ended up looking like a tea bag, it's like with all the, yeah, anyway. So I was in hospital for 2 weeks. Um, the first few days I don't really remember because besides the antibiotics, I was on high doses of morphine as well. So I was out of it. Um, Apparently I have visitors and I just have no memory of them whatsoever coming around to see me. Later on, after the first 4 or 5 days, then I started becoming more sort of compos mentis. Anyway, but the thing is, because I had the osteomyelitis, so what happened was the sepsis, the bacteria, had gotten into my hip bone marrow, and that's where it had been building up and building up and building up. So I was, because of the damage it had done to the hip joint, there's a lot of scar tissue in there now. I had to use crutches for 3 months. Um, and then, I mean, but the pain was still there for quite a long time after. But the other thing as well is that my immune system had taken a massive battering. Um, and I suffered really with a lot of lethargy and everything like this. And I'd say it took me a good year to feel like I'd recovered. But to be honest, even since then, I don't think my immune system has ever been completely as it should be. It was really frustrating because for that year, I could not be as physically active as I used to be. And I found that extremely frustrating, because also I would get tired very, very quickly as well. And it took a long time for my energy levels to come back to some sort of level of normality. So yeah, so it was just frustrating. But at the end of the day, I mean, it was one of those things. This is the situation. I have to deal with it. I can't click my fingers and it's gone. It's like, this is it. Deal with it. We'll take each day at a time, and tomorrow will be what tomorrow will be. I mean, obviously, I had appointments with the doctor just to check, progress and things like that. But that was it, really. And to be honest, I wasn't, I mean, I had the help from friends and family, but that was all I needed, to be honest. Recovery can be quite a long process. Don't expect to necessarily recover quickly, and there might actually be um, some, gosh, what's the word? Some after effects which never leave you. So, for example, I never got the absolute full mobility in my left hip back. I mean, it's mobile, but it's not as mobile as my other side, and that's because of the scar tissue in the bone. So there are going to be some long-term effects, and just make sure you're eating properly, you're getting the balanced nutrition, that you're giving your body all of the things it needs to be able to naturally rebuild itself. And also, you've got friends and family around you and you want to talk about something, don't be afraid to talk to people about it.